Two creepy true 4th of July horror stories.
Gosh, you won't believe the spine-chilling nightmare I lived through last year. My best friend Jimmy, man, he's practically a legend in the music world. I'm talking about that crazy lecture circuit and the phone music scene that's absolutely wild out west, especially in places like New Jersey and New York. Can you even imagine what he and his crew have pulled off in just 2 years? It's mind-blowing. They put on these epic performances in the sleekest, high-powered offices think the top sales hubs or corporate hotspots in the coolest cities. They bring in these ridiculously talented DJs, some introducing fresh faces, others total superstars. I'm not super emotional about that scene or anything, but let me tell you, the names they've worked with? Huge. I won't drag you through the boring planning details though. Who needs that, right? Jimmy and I go way, way back over 20 years. Can you believe it? He's been my ride or die since forever. That's why he's always hooking me and a few close buddies up with free tickets to his events, plus exclusive VIP meet and greets with the talent. How awesome is that? It's the kind of thing that makes you want to shout from the rooftops. So Jimmy had this massive event lined up for the last week of April on the Jersey Shore. Oh man. It was going to be their biggest bash yet. All our friends were pumped, and when Jimmy asked me to come early with him, I was over the moon. We hopped a train with our buddy Ryan, arriving at the venue 4 hours before the doors even opened. Talk about being all in. While Jimmy and his team were busy setting up, Ryan and I were just chilling, wondering what to do. So naturally, we dove into the drinks big time. Jimmy's crew had an endless supply of free booze, all courtesy of the venue. Can you say party paradise? By the time the first act hit the stage, Ryan and I were already a bit woozy, okay? Maybe more than a bit. It was the 4th of July weekend, so we were like, heck yeah, let's live it up. A few hours later, we were totally plastered. I mean, I can't even remember much after that point too many drinks. But don't get it twisted. We're grown men, and we can handle our liquor, okay? It wasn't about being sloppy. It was just about grabbing the moment, and maybe making a few bad calls. Who hasn't done that, right? We were having an absolute blast, at least from what I can piece together. As the night wound down, you know how it gets that point where you've got to figure out how you're getting home, or who you're leaving with. Jimmy had snagged this sweet Airbnb nearby, so he promised Ryan and me a spot to crash. Thank goodness, one less thing to stress about. But the other part, who we'd end up with, that was buzzing in my brain. We ditched the formalities and started chatting up some girls who caught our eye. Before we knew it, we'd locked in our crew for the night. Are we runway models? Nah, but we're both nearly 6 feet tall. And in Jersey, that's a game changer. Why are so many local guys so short? Being tall gave us a serious leg up, no pun intended. For some reason, height was the first thing these Jersey girls noticed. Not our charm, not our looks, just our height. What's up with that? I'm still trying to crack the code on Jersey girls. I might butcher their names, but I'm pretty sure the girls called themselves Gianna and Marcella. Things got fuzzy, but I remember we clicked big time. Marcella was all, let's ditch this place and keep the party going. Who were we to argue? Gianna sent us both drinks and asked if we'd hold our own before heading out. We'd already had a ton our feet. We're practically floating in booze, but I was still sharp enough to notice. Girls buying drinks for guys? That seemed almost too perfect, right? But these girls were on another level, so we rolled with it. After slamming those drinks, we headed for the exit. Marcella suggested we head to her place, super close and right by the shore. I was like, hold up, her place? I thought we'd crash at our Airbnb, but these girls swore Marcella's townhouse was way better than our rental. She had a point, so I didn't push back, and neither did Ryan. We wandered through town, talking up a storm. These girls were sharp as tacks, matching our stories with their own like it was nothing. It was such a breath of fresh air to talk about something other than the usual club scene nonsense. These weren't just any girls. They were smart, witty, and had me wondering if I was even keeping up. Was I sounding like a total goof? For a second, I felt out of my depth. Then, out of nowhere, I started feeling weirdly clear-headed, but not in a good way. My body felt like it was slipping away, my legs wobbling like they'd turned to pudding. Have you ever felt like you're about to hit the floor for no reason? Moving my legs, my eyes, my head, it was like wading through molasses. My legs went numb for a bit, but then, whoa, the sensation roared back, sharper than ever. What was going on? We ended up at the beach, and I swear, it was creepy as all get out. Maybe I was just too drunk, but it felt like we'd stumbled onto some haunted shipwreck's shore. It was like we walked into this desolate, eerie place, and suddenly, we were on a beach an hour away from the event. How the heck did we get there? I reached for my phone, but my pocket was empty. No phone, no wallet, no keys zip. And it got worse. These weren't even my clothes. I was wearing some random dude stuff, not Ryan's, someone else's entirely. The only thing I had was my foot, and even that was trashed, bruised, and soaked like I'd been trudging through a swamp. My head was throbbing, and everything felt like a bad dream. Was I coming to in a hospital bed, or what? I couldn't even sit up properly. I just stared at the sun, trying to wrap my head around it all. Trees everywhere, someone else's clothes, no wallet, no phone, no keys. What in the world happened? My foot looked like I'd been in water, but I didn't smell like the ocean or a pool. The worst part was the total confusion. I couldn't remember a thing after Gianna left. That's when the fear slammed into me like a tidal wave. I wasn't just lost, I was terrified. How did I end up here? Was I in a brawl? A car wreck? Did someone snatch me? I had no clue about the last 10 hours of my life. I managed to stand and saw no water anywhere, just trees, like I was dropped in the middle of nowhere. It didn't feel like a coastal town, which scared me even more. The path ahead was swallowed by dense trees, but far off, maybe a few thousand feet, I spotted a 7-Eleven. It was the only sign of life, so I staggered toward it. My heart was pounding as I asked the clerk if I could use his phone, saying mine had been stolen. He gave me this skeptical look, probably thinking, is this guy pulling a fast one? But he handed it over. The only number I could recall besides my parents was my sister's. In no way was I calling Mom and Dad. She answered instantly, and I tried to explain the madness as best I could. She gave me Ryan's number, and I called a few times, but no dice. Was he caught in the same nightmare, bloodied, lost, dumped in a forest an hour away? I was about to dial the cops when Ryan stumbled into the 7-Eleven. We locked eyes and hugged like we'd just survived a horror movie. He spilled his story, and you'll never guess it was identical to mine. We called the police, thanking the clerk like he was our lifeline. Minutes later, we were outside, pouring our hearts out to the cops. They seemed to believe us at first, but as we kept talking, their questions shifted. Maybe you guys just drank too much and got lost, they said. Lost? An hour out of the city? Come on. They weren't buying it, and I could tell they thought we were just a couple of drunk fools. I gave them my sister's number, and she tracked my phone with Find My iPhone. Guess where it was? A train station just minutes away. The cops drove us there, and sure enough, our phones were sitting side by side. Getting my phone back felt like a small victory, but it only fueled their theory that we were too wasted to function. They kept saying we probably weren't kidnapped, just misplaced our phones in a drunken stupor. We tried to argue, but they were convinced we'd blacked out and forgotten everything. One cop even said, "This happens more often than you think." They handed us our phones, told us to call if we remembered anything else, and left us to sort out getting home. Talk about infuriating. After they left, I checked my phone, and things got straight up bizarre. There were messages sent from my phone to Jimmy, my parents, coworkers, even some girls I'd been talking to. They sounded so normal, like something I'd text after a chill night. But when you looked closer, they were all over the place. One message thanked Jimmy for the event, saying we'd crashed at a coworker's place. Another told my parents we were safe and had found a table to sleep on. Seriously, a table? There was even one to a girl, all casual, like I was lounging at home thinking about her. These texts were a total mess, contradicting each other left and right. I saw tons of missed calls and messages from Jimmy, so I called him. He picked up, freaking out, saying he thought Ryan and I were dead or worse. He told us to stay put, and he'd come scoop us up. While we waited, Ryan and I checked our apps. Nothing had been touched, even though we'd been with those girls for hours. On the ride home, we couldn't stop obsessing over what happened. None of it made a lick of sense. Yeah, we were drunk, but that didn't explain this insanity. What app could even do this? I've heard of apps that knock you out, but come on, why go through all that hassle just to mess with two random dudes? And why drag us to some sketchy place? Was it their house? Some other creepy spot? Jimmy thought we were targeted, but we approached the girls, so that didn't add up. Nothing did. I couldn't find the house, and I kept thinking maybe Castro had a story about a girl using that house, but it was clearly nonsense. I walked away from that night with this heavy, knowing feeling in my gut. Not exactly fear, but close. Something awful went down with me and Ryan, and I'll never get the full story. For weeks, I was convinced those girls were wrapped up in something seriously shady. Were they planning to rob us? Kill us? Why bail at the last second? I'll probably never know, but if I get answers, I'll spill the tea. Now, let me tell you about Ariel, who lives in Georgia, just a stone's throw from the Alabama coast. A few months ago, she took a trip to a small Alabama town for the 4th of July after her friend Isabel invited her. It was one of those epic front yard parties tables, piled high with food, fireworks lighting up the sky, kids zooming around with sparklers. It was hands down one of the best nights she'd had in forever. Good vibes, great people, pure joy. She didn't head out until after 10 p.m. And looking back, she's like, why did I do that? That part of town turns into a ghost town at night. The drive home was over 2 hours, all through these eerie, empty rural roads, green fields, cool tree-lined paths, the whole deal. Every so often, she'd pass a rest stop or a dingy gas station with a flickering sign. But that night, nothing but darkness. She had some odd music playing, still riding the high from the party, but deep down, those dark roads gave her the creeps. Was it just her lifelong fear of the dark? Maybe. About 30 minutes in, she noticed headlights in her rearview mirror. No biggie, right? Just another car on the road. But the longer she drove, the more it freaked her out. It was a white Nissan Altima, nothing fancy, but the undercarriage was caked with dirt. She could see it clearly under a streetlight. Not a huge deal, but still a bit odd. Then, no matter how fast or slow she went, that car stayed right on her tail. Was this really happening? She sped up, maybe 5 to 10 miles faster than before, and the Altima kept pace. She slowed down, same story. The gap between them never budged. On roads like that, people pass each other all the time, so she pulled to the right a few times to let them go around. Did they? Nope. They just stayed there, 6 to 7 car lengths back, like they were stalking her. That's when Ariel decided to shake them. Up ahead was this random side road, leading to a few houses. She made a snap decision to turn, thinking, let's see if they follow. 10 seconds later, the Altima turned too, trailing her into the middle of nowhere. What were the chances? 0%. They were just on that road by coincidence. That's when she knew they were following her. Her stomach churned. Was she in real danger? Her heart was hammering, like someone was holding a gun to her head. She didn't know why, but that's how it felt, so exposed, out there in the pitch-black nowhere. What did they want? Why her? No explanation felt okay. All she wanted was to reach somewhere safe, with lights and people. It was like she could hear danger lurking all around her. She swears she's never been that terrified. Her car's an old 2012 Corolla, barely hanging on. Some days it gets 20 miles to the gallon, others barely 10. And out there, gas stations aren't exactly popping up everywhere. She grabbed her phone and checked for the nearest 24-hour spot 8 miles away. Could she make it? She had no choice. No way was she pulling over with that car still behind her. She thought about calling the cops, but in that remote area, they'd take forever to show up. Plus, part of her felt like calling would make the danger feel even more real. Sounds nuts, right? But that's how she felt, scared out of her mind and second-guessing herself. She screeched into a gas station a few minutes later, barely holding it together. Her hands were trembling as she bolted inside, not even bothering to lock her car door. From the window, she saw the Altima slow to a stop on the side of the road. It sat there for 10 seconds, engine running, like they were deciding whether to keep chasing her. Then, out of nowhere, it peeled out, speeding back the way it came. What was their deal? She told the clerk what happened, and he offered to call the police. Even after talking to him, she was still a wreck. It might not be the scariest thing ever, but there's no way the car wasn't up to no good. That fear, she hopes she never feels it again. She got home and vowed never to drive backroads at night again. But hold up, the story doesn't end there. A few weeks later, she was watching the news, just background noise, when a report came on about 2 men wanted for armed robbery, attempted murder, and more in Alabama. They'd been caught on a security camera, and get this, they were believed to be driving a red Nissan Altima, last seen heading west. Her heart stopped. Was that the car? She knew it deep down. There's no proof it was the same one, but the timing, the location, the car description, it was too close for comfort. She called the police immediately, reliving the whole ordeal. She felt like she might help catch 2 dangerous criminals. She still beats herself up for not calling the cops that night. It eats at her, you know. She never heard back from the police, and there's been no update on the news. If anything changes, she'll let us know. Can you imagine carrying that kind of mystery around? Craving true horror stories that chill your bones? Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for the scariest stories in the world. Share your creepy park story in the comments below.